Hello, my name is SujalRai and my PIN number is P2838261, and this is my video podcast for BABM 3009 dissertation video podcast which I'm going to submit to the Montfort University. So the title of my dissertation is Driving Innovation: How Tesla Maintains Competitive Advantage in the Electric Vehicle Industry. From now, over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to talk about the key chapters from the literature and methodology through to the findings and what they mean both theoretically and in practice. So let's get started from here. From this slide, my presentation gonna begin. So for the first is introduction about PowerPoint presentation. The global electric vehicle industry is undergoing an extraordinary transformation, and no single firm sits at its center more prominently or impotently than Tesla. My research question is, as I have already mentioned, how does Tesla maintain competitive advantage in the EV industry through innovations, market strategy, and technological advancement? To contextualize why this matters, the Tesla Model Y became the world's best-selling electric vehicle in 2025, surpassing 1 million units. But my study focuses on 2021 to 2023, the opening of the Berlin and Texas Gigafactories, the full-scale rollout of full self-driving, and the global semiconductor shortage. I set four research objectives. First, to establish the theoretical foundations, and then second, I have to gather the evidence of Tesla's innovations, whereas the third is to extend existing theory, and the fourth is to deliver accountable recommendations for both academia and management. This is the slide where I'm going to talk about the first chapter, that is literature review. My literature review is built on three frameworks, and I'll explain what it says, where it's necessary, and where it falls short. So the first one is research-based theory, which was by Barney 1991. Sustained advantage comes from VRI and resources. That means valuable, rare, inimitable, non-substitutable. Tesla's $3.1 billion R&D, battery technology, and software platforms clearly meet this test. However, RBT is static. It doesn't explain how Tesla adapts when the environment shifts rapidly. The second one is Disruptive Innovation Theory by Christensen 1997. Tesla entered as a high-end disruptor with the Roadster and moved down market until the Model Y becomes the world's best-selling vehicle. Incumbents underestimated Teslas because their feedback came from ICE customers. But this theory explains how Teslas got here, not how Teslas here. Not how Teslas stays here. So the second one is Dynamic Capabilities by Tis, Pisano and Swain 1997. Explains Tesla's ability to sense, seize, and reconfigure. During the semiconductor shortage, Tesla rewrote software to accommodate cheap variants. OTA updates improved the global fleet overnight. The research gap: no existing study integrates all three frameworks to analyze a single firm's hybrid strategy as a continuous cycle, and I fill that gap. So, as I've already talked about every framework that I have used in literature review, and also I have addressed the research gap. So this is the second chapter and slide 4, which is called methodology, and I'm going to talk about the methodology here. So my methodology follows the Research Onions by Saunders, Lewis, and Thornbill 2019, structuring my design from the broadest philosophical stance down to the specific analysis technique. And the first is philosophy, which is interpretism. I have selected interpretism. A strategy is context dependent. Understanding Tesla's advantage requires quantitative interpretations, not statistics. And the approach is abductive. I move iteratively between data and the three theoretical framework, refining my understanding as new evidence emerges. And methodology, qualitative monomethod. I analyze the language and content of Tesla's strategic communications, whereas strategy, single case study. Tesla is what Yin 2018 calls an extreme case, is strategically distinctive enough that a deep analysis generates insights broader studies would miss. And the time horizon is about cross-sectional 2021 to 2023, a complete bounded period with full data availability. And then there is the data, which I have used secondary sources, Tesla's annual reports, IEA, Bloomberg, NF, McKinsey, and peer-reviewed journals. There is also analysis, directed content analysis. Like there is Say and Sanon 2005, I code against the three pre-existing framework rather than letting themes emerge freely, making the analysis more rigorous. Every layer is internally consistent and connect back to the research question. That's why I have used these all in my methodology chapters. So this is it for the methodology chapter. We move to the next slide. So this is the slides where our findings begins, and in these slides I have talked about my findings. So let's begin. My findings reveal that Tesla's competitive advantage emerged from the interplay of two distinct but manually reinforcing strategic modes. On the prescriptive side, the planned deliberate investment, the 4680 battery cell program targeting $100 per kilowatt hour, deep vertical integration manufacturing motors, electronics, software, and the supercharger network, the Berlin and Texas gigafactories opening in 2021 to 2022, and the DOE supercomputer processing over 500 million miles of FSD data monthly. On the emergent side, the adaptive real-time responses, Tesla's delivered over 20 major OTA updates in 2022, pushing environments across the entire global fleet without visiting a dealership where the semiconductor shortage hit. Tesla's rewrote firmware for over 30 chip variants, achieving 1.31 million deliveries while competitors froze productions. That is great. And in January 2023, Tesla's got priced globally by 6 to 20%, targeting BYD's competitive pricing. Crucially, these two modes reinforce each other as the next slide shows. So here I have given the Tesla's investment 2021 to 2023 and the R&D data from the Tesla annual research 2021, 2022, 2023. There is also a diagram which shows exactly what happened on 2021 to 2023. So yeah, that's it. I have mentioned about prescriptive strategies here, emergent strategies here. So from up here we can begin the findings and we can move to the second findings. So here is the findings, Tesla's hybrid strategic loop, where I'm going to talk about the Tesla strategic is structurally unique or not, our battery technology loop, FSD data, free while supercharger network loops. So what does Tesla's strategically structurally unique in that its perspective and emergent strategies from self-reinforcing loops? I identified three. The number one is battery technology loop. The Tesla invests deliberately in 4,680 cells. Real-world production data generates iterative chemistry improvements. Those improvements inform the next planned investment cycle. FSD data flywheel. Tesla deliberately equips every vehicle with sensor and cameras. Every mile driven feeds data into neural networks updated via OTA. Better modes generate better data. With 500 million miles monthly, Tesla has a training dataset no competitor can replicate. That's the nice point, I guess. And the second one is supercharger network loop. The global charging builds out, reduce range anxiety and growth the installed base. In 2023, the Teslas opened the network to non-Teslas EVs, converting a fixed cost into a real new revenue stream. That's also nice. These loops means Tesla advantage is not a static stock of resources, it is a flows that regenerate itself continuously. So in short, I have talked about battery technology loop, FST data flywheel, supercharger network loop. So this made a crystal clear about the strategic loop of Tesla's. And from here, let's see what we have in next slide. Previously, we have already talked about literature review, methodology, findings, a strategic loop, and all. And in these slides, we're going to talk about analysis and discussions. So my analysis applies all three lenses and then extends existing theory. Through research-based theory, RBT, Tesla's clearly sacrificed all four VRN criteria. The 4680 battery invaluable, reduced cost, increases range, rare, no competitor matches energy density at scale, and inimitable. The combinations of manufacturing, material science, and software cannot be copied and non-substitutable. I extend Lean's 2021 by arguing these resources and enables Tesla's capacity to adapt. Through disruptive innovations, the IEA reported in 2024 that the Model Y was the world's best-selling vehicle in 2023, not just among EVs, textbook, high-end disruptive scaling into volume segments, but Christensen theory explains the trajectory, not the sustainability. Through dynamic capabilities, Tesla sensed regularity shifts and seized opportunities faster than competitors. During the semiconductor shortage, Tesla reconfigured its supply chain and software stack in weeks, while Ford and GM halted production for months. My theoretical contribution is that the strategic loop concept, prescriptive investment creating conditions for emergent adoptions and real-world outcomes inform the next planned investment cycle. This extends Mintzberg, Tis et al., and Titos et al. So this was the analysis and discussions that I have wrote here, where supports like my presentation, and then in the next slides we're gonna talk about what we have written there. So from the beginning till here, I have already talked about everything, and to bring this together, I'm going to talk about the summary of results, the theory that I have used, and the research limitations, findings. So let's conclude everything here. Whereas Tesla maintains competitive advantage by operating a hybrid strategic model in which planned investment and adaptive responses lock into self-reinforcing loops that continuously regenerate advantage. This is not static, it is a dynamic, self-renewing system. My theoretical contribution is the strategic loop concept, extending Mitchberg, Thies et al. And Titos et al. This is also the first systematic content analysis using all three frameworks simultaneously across 3 consecutive years of Tesla's strategic communications. I must also be honest about limitations. Single case design limits generalizability. Secondary data reflect that Tesla chose to communicate publicly and there is no interpretive risk as a single researcher. Despite these limitations, this study provides a replicable, theoretically grounded framework applicable to any firm competing in a high innovations industry. So that was the conclusion of my PowerPoint presentations, and I think I have covered everything here, and there is more 2 slides where I'm going to talk next. So this would be my slide number 9 for this PowerPoint presentation. As I have already concluded everything, I have some recommendation that I wanted to share. So I close with 2 sets of recommendation for academia and then for our management. So let's talk about for academia at first, and then we're gonna talk about the management at last. So for academia, first apply the strategic loop model to BYD, Volkswagen AV, and Rivian to test whether it's generalized. Secondly, extend longitudinally. Tracking loops over a decade will reveal whether they encounter diminishing returns. Third, use primary data, executive interviews to complement documentary evidence. Fourth, team-based research would reduce interpretive bias. Fifth, test the integrated framework in biotechnology and aerospace where similar dynamics exist. For management, first, treat software defined architecture not as a feature but as a strategic capability. Second, investment in vertical integration in areas with steep learning curves. Third, design deliberate Feedback loops connecting real world data back to strategic planning. Fourth, use dynamic pricing strategically. Tesla's 2023 price cuts were a calculated defense of market volume. Fifth, adopt Cafe's 1985 dynamic adaptive model, continuously realign capabilities with shifting technology and regulations. So that was it. That is it. And it's the time for closing, I would say. This is my last slide for the PowerPoint presentation. Thank you very much for watching this video podcast. My name is SujalRai and my PIN number is P283261. In one sentence, Tesla does not simply hold competitive advantage, it continually produces through three self-reinforcing strategic loops that convert planned investment into adaptive capabilities and self-fault feedback into the future planning. The full reference list is in the submitted dissertation. Thank you very much.